The following program presents principles designed to promote good health and is not intended to take the place of personalized professional care. The opinions and ideas expressed are those of the speaker. Viewers are encouraged to draw their own conclusions about the information presented.
Welcome to Wonderfully Made. My name is Lee Wellard, a lifestyle educator from Wildwood Lifestyle Center. And today we have with us Dr. Scott Grievous. Welcome, Dr. Grievous.
Thank you, Lee. Good to be here. Today
we're going to be looking at a very important topic, one that has a lot of misunderstanding and one that affects the mindset of many individuals who are looking at alternative treatments. Today we're going to be looking at the botanical agents and their role in the treatment of disease. Dr. Grievous, how important is botanicals in the treatment of disease today? And is it a good alternative in our healthcare practices?
Sure. I believe it is an important alternative among many in the healthcare practices, and it is very, very common. According to World Health Organization data, 4 billion people are using the botanical medicines globally.
Wow.
Here in this country, in America, over 60 million Americans are using some type of alternative medical care, including botanical medicines, and are very happy with the results. And it's not just among the laity, the lay people. The health practitioners are becoming aware of the benefits of these agents. Dr. Heber from the UCLA Medical School, who is a university professor there and professor in public health, has termed the botanical medicines as probably the medicine of the 21st century, looking at their lack of toxicity, their benefits both for prevention and treatment of common lifestyle diseases. We are using these more and more, and we're seeing the benefits.
What do you think causes the average person on the street to even consider it an option to use botanical agents?
Well, I think there are many reasons. If you look at what has happened in just the regular healthcare line, many people have lost faith in conventional medicine alone. They've either not been benefited as they had hoped for, or they have been possibly harmed by some of the drugs that have been given. And they're looking for something that's safer. They're looking for something that is not so expensive and something that they consider in their mind as more natural. And so here comes the botanical agents. And the industry now, the herbal industry, has come in to help advocate the use of these agents, and it is now, the information is everywhere, in magazines, internet, you know, just wherever you go, this is the hot topic, is botanical medicine.
Now we know that whenever we look at anything that has a potential to help with our health, there's going to be an obvious concern about, is this something that's really money-making? What is the motive behind the people who are doing it? And many people are questioning the scientific validity of using herbal agents. Do we have the data to sustain our confidence that these botanical agents really work?
Lee, in my opinion, we have more information on the botanicals than even we do about the pharmaceuticals. You just have to know where to look for them. Even in our own country, the U.S. Agricultural Service has a database where you can go, you can ask questions of a certain herb, they will give you all of the phytochemical constituents of that herb. They will tell you not only what's in it, but how many parts per million are in that herb. They will give you the balancing of these phytochemicals in the herb, so it's not just a unidirectional action. It is balanced by others. They will tell you what every phytochemical that has been identified, that we know what is its action in the human organism. I mean, this is science at its best. And so the practitioner who wants to know, he is not left to say, oh, well, Grandma tried it or Uncle George tried it. We have the knowledge now, and we should study, and we should now put that knowledge to practical usefulness in benefiting patients with this other alternative arm that God has given us to help mankind.
Do you think over the last few years, as there's been more awareness of the importance of prevention, do you think that more people are willing to even take a risk, so to speak, in using these agents?
Oh, I think so. I think they're open, and especially as we see at the same time this light coming to us on the botanical, we see the rising incidence of adverse drug effects resulting in many cases in death. In fact, you're aware now that just recently the Institute of Medicine quoted in the AARP journal has identified healthcare harm as the third leading cause of death in this country.
Amazing. And
so when people see that, they are saying, well, is there something else? Can I try something that's not so dangerous? And so they're open to this.
Let's talk for a minute about the safety aspect. You know, sometimes we hear of people who are overdosing or have used a herbal agent, perhaps unintelligently, and it's caused a negative side effect. Are these things common, or are they a rarity?
They're not nearly as common as they would be with the regular pharmaceuticals. But they can occur, and if people do not use a product in harmony with the prescribing information, then yes, there can be some potential harm, but the potential for that is much less than with the pharmaceuticals.
Right. Now, how do we know what herbs are good? Obviously, tobacco is not going to be on the same par as something like red clover. How do they differentiate what herb is safe and what isn't?
The same way that we have identified what drugs are safe and what are not. By scientific study. The same agency, the U.S. Agricultural Service, has already put all that information together for us. We have classified herbs, those that are safe, those that are poisonous, those that can be used for foods, those that can be used for medicines. There is no question. We should know if we're studying.
And how do we know how much is safe? Obviously, a little child is not going to need the same amount as an adult. Do we have enough information for the dosage of each individual?
Oh yes, that's already been worked out.
Okay.
In terms of the amounts for children at various age groups, David Hoffman, English, investigator in herbal science, has done all that. He's got that formula for us. He's recommended the dosages for these various common plants. And so I don't believe that we need to fear so much about dosings and things, and even on the standardized products. If you're getting products from reputable manufacturers of the herbs, they will even have recommended suggested dosages to use. Now, let's say a healthcare practitioner who knows that herb, he may go outside of that generally recommended level if he knows the range of therapy. But if you don't know, and even the more common person without any medical knowledge can safely follow those standards from the industry.
Okay. Now, what are some of the agents, the chemicals in the herbs that bring about? Are they phytochemicals? Are they minerals? What exactly are they?
Well, yes, they're plant substances that the God of heaven put there.
Okay.
In other words, and He knows exactly what needs to be there. An herb is truly an example of polypharmacy. You know, you've heard that
Yes.
term. Now, in the regular drug line, that has a negative connotation. But in the matter of herbal agents that God has created with infinite wisdom, He is the one who has put this together. And there are many, many agents in there that balance one another, so that when you take them, you can get the benefits without the toxicity of extracting from that plant, concentrating it, and then giving it back to a human being and having that potential toxic reaction.
Now, many of these herbal agents, are they found locally? Could they be in our backyard?
Of course.
Do we have to go to a supermarket to get them?
If you know the herbs and you studied them, you can find many, many plants growing just where you are in the natural habitat that you can use. Or even you can start to grow your own in an herb garden.
Now, do you have any herbs in your garden that you've just gone out there and picked and made a herbal tea or some concoction?
We have in our own little environment there at our home, we have mullein, which is a nice herb that we use for respiratory tract infection. We've got plantain, which is another nice agent that we use as a demulcent in various inflammatory disease. Red clover, chickweed, I mean, just on and on. Thistle, I mean, it's growing. And God has placed in every locale the plants that He knew in His foreknowledge man would need when they became ill.
So no matter where we are in the world, what country we're in, we can find something that God has placed there. So He's made provision.
Sure. When we go overseas, Lee, and we are teaching people how to use the botanicals and other simple remedies that God has given in the hygienic line, we can't tell them, now you use all of these that we have in this country, because they may not have them.
Right.
We have to learn what is indigenous to that population and learn what those agents do and work with those who are knowledgeable about the plants in that area.
Now, do you use botanical agents in the Lifestyle Center when guests come with various conditions? Do you start to incorporate some of these agents as part of their treatment?
Certainly.
And what effect do you see it having upon the patients as they take some of these agents? Do you see a shift towards a great improvement of health?
Well, of course. In other words, because this is after God's wisdom. The plants, Psalms 104:14, the plants God placed here for the service of man. And so in a therapeutic regimen, obviously there is a place for the plant medicines. And as we use them in conjunction first with lifestyle change, correcting the abnormal behavior in habits, so that now we have removed the block, the Lord can now bring in the right lifestyle, then we assist nature in her recovery. And in that assisting nature, we use a lot of the hygienic methods, hydrotherapy, botanical medicines. And as those changes now begin to take place in the individual, then it often results in much less need for the medicine that they were taking. So we can gradually, under observation, start to withdraw those pharmaceuticals and rely more and more upon the simple plants.
So if someone is on a bad lifestyle and they don't want to make these changes, but they're interested in using botanical agents, will it have any effect on those individuals?
I would not say it wouldn't have any effect, but I would tell them you're not going to experience the healing that you are hoping for just by using herbs. You have got to go back to what caused the problem and correct that with lifestyle intervention. And then you can anticipate that the Lord will work through the simple things that He has made to bring us to health.
So we don't use the herbal agents like a magic pill to fix this problem or that problem. Dr. Grievous, you've been trained in conventional medical school. Was this something that they taught you in medical school, or How did you get involved in this? I'm curious.
No, we did not learn that when I was in school. Now, that was a number of years ago. We were taught conventional pharmacology. And as we've talked before in other programs, there is a place for that. But to transition from the total reliance on drug medications in a therapeutic regimen over to lifestyle change and the use of hygienic methods that do not tax or debilitate the system, that takes a retraining, even for physicians. And that's what we do a lot at our Lifestyle Center. Those physicians that are interested in learning God's plan for ministry will often come to the institution and work with our physicians to be able to see how to transition from this complete reliance on the traditional pharmacologic agents to other hygienic methods.
Now, how hard was it for you as a physician, not having a background in this, trying to even get involved? I mean, it was a leap of faith. What actually happened to get you to that point?
Well, certainly, faith is necessary because faith motivates, right?
That's right.
And when I would read the miracles of healing that are recorded here, like with King Hezekiah, you remember when he was dying, and God directed the prophet Isaiah to take the plaster of figs and place upon that, we think, a malignant boil. We read about how Jesus healed the blind man with the water, the clay, you know. Naaman, how he was healed with water therapy, you know, dipping in the Jordan. That challenged me because I certainly didn't know anything about that, but I was wanting to learn. God put that burning in my heart to, Lord, how can we do this working with you? And there's a science to this, just like there's a science to salvation. And so I started with not a whole lot at hand. I had different herb books, but they were books that were written not by professional people at all, but by local native people. And I was a little reluctant to just grab those. Now, if I wanted to use them, that was okay, but that's my choice. But to take those and then give them to patients who were coming to me, that I could not do until I had more information.
Right.
And then I began to investigate. And the earliest book I can remember obtaining was written with some bibliographies at the end from European literature where they study these herbs a lot more than we have in this country. And I was so thankful because now I had some science behind this. And then I could feel more confident that I could tell a patient, now this has been studied, this has been investigated, this is the dose, and here should be the expected outcome. Now, I felt comfortable with that.
Did you ever get to a point where you started to introduce certain things and maybe had a bad reaction and it sort of took you back a little bit by surprise? Were there any experiences like that, or did you see a consistent progression of health with the individuals who are taking?
I think any ill effects would probably not be because of the agent, but because of my inexperience in being able to use it wisely.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So it took probably a number of years to get that background and that confidence before you could start to withdraw certain things and to also offer suggestions of even treatments with these botanical agents.
That's why they call it medical practice.
Okay. And you're still practicing?
Still practicing and still praying.
Okay.
Lord, I don't want to make any mistakes. I want people to get better under every therapeutic plan that the Lord has.
So you really study your herbs really well before you even recommend them.
You have to. You have to know these.
And how do the patients respond when you start to even mention about herbal agents? Are they as excited in these things as you are? Or?
Many are. In fact, they come to our center, many of them, because they have heard that we use more natural remedies. But others come and they're not so sure. But with giving them time, not forcing, we're not pushing anything on people. Whatever they have, if they want to stay with it, we certainly allow that too. But we're educating.
Right.
We are trying to help people to understand God's plan for total health recovery and restoration to a whole being.
Right. So our role as in your situation, dealing with these patients as a physician, is to increase the education rather than just give them medication. And I think that's important for us to remember, that if we can swallow a little education, we can avoid a lot of medication that may not be required because we're following a healthier lifestyle.
Exactly.
And so these botanical agents have powerful properties to, in many cases, reverse, not just prevent. We're not using them for a preventative role so much, are we? We're using them more as a way of treatment.
Well, we also use them preventive. They can be used for immune enhancement.
Okay.
Things like that. If we'll be shortly taking a trip to Africa, and I will use some of these in terms of prevention of some of these diseases that are there.
I see. Okay. Now, maybe someone watching that may be thinking, you probably have to have faith for these things to work. Is that the case? If the person doesn't have any faith at all, maybe they're not even interested in using these items.
Well, I think faith always is helpful in healing. You remember when Jesus told the lady that touched his garment, "Daughter, thy faith has made thee whole." And frequently he would say, "According to your faith, let it be unto you."
Right.
But no, God has put antidotes for disease in the plants. Now, I believe that if we use those plants in a faith connection with Christ, asking Him to bless these, then we will see far greater advantage than if we try to use them without inviting His presence there for the healing, you see.
Yes.
Because while it's like a seed, when you put a seed in the ground, often people just think, well, it just grows, right? It just grows. But no, God has to call forth the life of that seed, to spring forth to bring the food to feed the people. And we should recognize that behind every good intervention, God is there.
Right. Amen.
Trying to bring healing and health.
Amen. Now, for those who are listening and starting to get a little encouragement towards the use of botanical agents, how would you suggest they get started? What resources could they use? Where would they go?
Many of the health stores, the libraries now, the bookstores will have plants, herbal plants available in book form with a lot of the scientific information about it listed. The common bookstores even, Barnes & Nobles and some of these it'll have them. So I would suggest that they try to get a book on the herbal medicines that is scientific, it's backed up by true science. And for the viewers, if you would like to have a website that you can go to explore the agricultural database, the U.S. Agricultural Service database, you can just simply go to your search engine, whatever it is, and type in James Duke, D-U-K-E. He was the primary investigator. And then you click into that, and up will come a phytochemical, ethnobotanical base. There, you flick in, and then you're into that, and you can explore as much as you want these herbal medicines.
And that gives you the scientific information, how these work, what chemicals are in what plants, and so on. Dr. Grieves, when we're looking at using simple botanical agents, and especially if we haven't used them before, do you recommend a milder herb in the beginning, a herb that is well known, that's quite popular?
Sure.
Rather than something that may be a little more abstract, not much scientific studies being done.
Exactly. And only those herbs that we know are safe.
Right.
We don't want to experiment on patients with unsafe agents. We want to know those that have been tried and tested, and here is the effect. Toxicity data is available, and if there is any problems, we know about it ahead of time. So if we stay with that and we stay within the dosages that are recommended, I think that there is minimal risk to patients. It's when we start experimenting in dosages that is not recommended or with plants that we know have not been tested for safety that we get into trouble.
Right, I see. So really, we need to use them intelligently.
Yes.
We need to follow safe guidelines, make sure the parameters are covered. And if you are in need to know more information about plants that you have a question mark over, what you're really saying is there's enough information out there to find out whether these herbal agents are safe or not.
And we need a correct diagnosis. This is where physicians are very important. We don't go to the corner herb shop to find out what's wrong with us.
Right.
All right. We need physicians that understand this body to make correct diagnoses, and then if we choose to use a simpler agent, then we can do so, but always with an understanding of what is the problem and how can we then go about to correct it.
Right. So herbal agents have a useful place in the treatment, although it doesn't cause us to negate other methods of healing, and especially using medical professionals who have experience in diagnosis. And sometimes it may not be that we need that herbal agent.
That's right.
And we could use something that's more appropriate. Now, are there several different kinds of herbs that we could take that produce the same effect?
Oh, yes. It's like food. In other words, the Lord has placed in the herbal agents a multiplicity of things that overlap. So you'll find one herb having these phytochemicals, another herb will have a few different, but the same, that some are as the same that we find in another, and they'll overlap. And so it's not that every herb is distinct, it has nothing in common. No, there's a lot of overlap in the plants.
As we've discussed, the useful treatment or the intelligent use of treatment when it comes to botanical agents, I hope it's been an encouragement to you as you've looked at some of the things that you can do, maybe some of these agents in your backyard. I hope it's encouraged you to educate yourself towards learning more about these things that you could help yourself in the recovery towards health. And please be aware that if you are introducing botanical agents and you have a chronic illness and you're being treated by a physician, please make sure that you let that physician know of any botanical agents that you are introducing. We want to make sure we're following safe guidelines as it comes to using these botanical agents. I hope this program has been a blessing to you. Please join us again next time on another program of Wonderfully Made. My name is Lee Wellard from Wildwood Lifestyle Center, and please keep in mind that your body is His temple.